My bio says I'm best known as the first woman to row solo across the Atlantic Ocean. I also skied to the South Pole and I've done a fair amount of high altitude mountaineering. I am not a great runner, but I'm certainly an endurance athlete and certainly have a lot of respect for that discipline. I'm also a bit of an academic. I just finished a 25-year service role, finally as the president at Spalding University the last 14 years, but served Spalding prior to that. And currently, well, I won't go into that yet. I'll let you ask me about that.
All right, great. Well, rowing across the Atlantic, that just sounds like a tremendous accomplishment. So I've got to ask about that without giving too much away, because we're looking forward to hearing from you about it in February. What can our attendees expect to maybe learn from or take away as the inspirational point from that experience?
Well, it took me 2 tries to row a boat alone across the ocean. And I ended up writing a book about my journeys. And most of the book is about my unsuccessful attempt, because like many people, I learn more from my failures than I do from my successes. We got to fall down, get up, and dust ourselves off. And in the period between the first row and the second row, I worked for Muhammad Ali, the boxer and humanitarian. And that was a great experience. And it was Muhammad, as much as anyone else, who, I mean, he said literally, you don't want to go through life as the woman who almost rowed across the ocean. So that was a pretty good excuse for going back. So I'll talk about that trip and some other trips. And I think the synergies with endurance athletes and runners are quite significant.
Sounds phenomenal. Can't wait to hear about that. You mentioned briefly that you have recently concluded a major career stint for you as president of Spalding University. What are you planning on doing next? And kind of along those lines, and maybe relevant to our attendees at the event, how do you gear up for what's next when you're later in your career and continuing along a lifetime of incredible accomplishments?
Yeah, I had lunch with a friend who observed, finishing a presidency in these days, you must be deeply tired. And I hadn't actually put my finger on it, but there is that sense of when you're serving an institution with so many constituency groups, you can't please everyone. And that's exhausting to try to be at your best all the time and trying to please everyone all at once and immediately. And so my first couple months, I was just getting the books into the house and rearranging all the things that came out of closets at the office. But currently I've been an emergency medical technician for more than 20 years, particularly as a wilderness emergency medical technician. So I've been teaching EMTs at a local firehouse here, Fern Creek Fire, with the gentleman who taught me how to be an EMT. So it's really been fun. And I look forward to developing those skills and teaching wilderness EMTs, because that's kind of my sweet spot. I know a fair amount about how to get on in the backcountry and all the things that can go wrong in the backcountry. And I know many of your runners do great distances in the out of doors, and having some competencies in those areas is really important.
Well, that's fascinating. And yeah, there's certainly a fair amount of emergency management that comes into play in the road racing realm. So we'll look forward to hearing more about those experiences. How interesting.
And the other thing is, when I was a president, I still rode when I was a president, but I didn't compete as a rower as a president. And this last weekend, I raced in Nashville and in a mixed double took silver. And then I stroked, that was in the morning. And then in the afternoon, I stroked an 8-person boat to another silver. And while I have hundreds of medals, I've got to tell you, after 15 years off, those 2 little silver trinkets make me very happy.
That's awesome. Well, we love medals in the running space. And it's Thursday today, so it's not Medal Monday. But if you want to bring those along and wear them while you speak, we'd love it. That's fantastic. Last question for you. I know you've been a longtime resident of Louisville. Many of our attendees at the event will never have been there before. What should we look forward to checking out or seeing while we're in town?
Well, Louisville's a great food city. We've got lots of options when it comes to eating. It's a overgrown small town. You initially, folks will be like, "Are people being paid to be nice to us?" Is no, people are legitimately. We have Southern hospitality, but we're not really Southern. We're not really Midwestern. We're in this sort of no person's land in between. but it's a good flavor for a place. And once you've finished your competitions, we've got some good bourbon. Me, I don't drink it because I have too much Native American blood. But my husband is bourbon royalty. He is the grandson of Pepe Van Winkle, a very famous bourbon distiller. So there are lots of great bourbons and plenty of good food for you to enjoy, and just a beautiful place to visit.